You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Nearly a full week into the minor league baseball 2019 regular season, and we're gonna get a blizzard where I live tomorrow, so feels like summer.
Well, it did feel like summer for you.
It did. It did. Yeah. It was great. It was great up until today, and no, not so much. Not so much.
This just reinforces my feelings about Colorado, most of which, before I visited, and it was very lovely when I visited, most of which were reinforced by The Shining. And just assuming that the entire state just shuts down from like November to March.
Yeah, it's true. No one move here because that's how it is. It's terrible. And we're full.
You're just trying to keep traffic low is what you're doing right now. I see through your game.
We've all failed at miserably if that's our end game. But blizzard warning for the Denver metro area. We're actually recording this in the morning. It's 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, Mountain Time, which we rarely record in the morning. But I wanted to make sure I could batten down the hatches before. No, that's not why we're recording in the morning. But it's. That's my mood. My mood is just one deep sigh. They've already banged the Rockies Braves game for tonight because it's supposed to be like 65-mile-an-hour winds around here. Which, speaking of that, by the way, it's a minor league baseball podcast. My name's Tyler Vaughn. He's Sam Dykstra. We introduced that as though like people have downloaded it and have no idea what it is. What is this thing that showed up on my phone? Who are these people? Last night, the Lancaster Jethawks had a game postponed because of wind, which Lancaster named its Copa de la Diversión identity wind in Spanish, kind of owning their reputation as the crazy wind spot in the minor leagues. You can't be postponing games because of wind. You got to own that. I don't care that it's 50-mile-an-hour winds.
I mean, we had this discussion in the office yesterday about whether there was a button in the system for like delay of game or game suspended because of wind.
Right.
Like we went through all the things that. No, there is. There is.
Okay.
Wind was definitely in there. There was like, there was rain, there was snow, there was just inclement weather generically.
Okay.
There was tragedy.
That's the unsettling one. I remember in 2012 when I worked in AA for the first time, we had game day. This is back in the days before the Class A levels had game day, had pitch-by-pitch game day. So in order to update things in game day, you could select all these different options if you were delayed and whatever. And, one of them was tragedy. And I was like, oh, God, that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I want to think about the circumstances where that's used. To me, it would be like, they ran out of churros. Tragedy.
I mean, don't put it past San Jose. They might do that.
That's true. Exactly. These are the things we need to think about. But yeah, they wind yesterday, which it was bad wind. It was like 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts were expected in the Antelope Valley, so they postponed that game. But I kind of feel like what's the average there? Like 30?
I'm sure it's a little bit less than that, but I would just want to see a game played in that environment.
Yeah.
We already think of Lancaster as a launching pad. What happens if there's just a pop fly to short?
Yeah.
And then that just carries. If you think that whole play with Marcell Ozuna last night of him like jumping on the fence and then having to run about 15 feet in to try to catch the ball because he misjudged it. If you think that was bad, just imagine what would happen at a Jethawks game in which gusts are like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, that would be pretty entertaining, and I think we should make sure that happens next time. Yeah. Somebody needs to make sure that Lancaster will not be allowed to just remove that option from their game day. Nope, you can't put wind. Sorry, it's gonna have to be rain or something else. But that's where we are. We've covered all the weather for the western half of the United States. As we kick off this weather podcast, we'll be joined by Mike Trout later. No, we won't. We will be joined, however. Micker Adolfo, the 8th-ranked prospect in the Chicago White Sox organization, joins the show coming up in a little bit. I had kind of forgotten about this. His MLB Pipeline bio is led by this sentence, quote, after a bonus skimming scandal in 2008 essentially shut down the White Sox international operations for a few years, they got back in the business by signing Adolfo for $1.6 million out of the Dominican Republic in 2013. I forgot about that in 2008 with the White Sox. That was, we've talked over the last few years about, the Braves issues, obviously, and some of the other things that have come up around the international market. I sort of forgot about that with the White Sox, and especially nowadays when you look at the White Sox top 30 prospects, and Eloy obviously leads things off. Eloy Jimenez at number 1, and Luis Roberts at number 4, and Luis Alexander Basabe is at number 7, and Micker Adolfo's at number 8. Kind of forget for a while that was a team that internationally was just doing nothing because of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of those guys have been brought in through trades and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
right.
One of the things that I really liked about this interview with Micker Adolfo was I learned something from him. I wanted to get into, we don't, just because this is the nature of it being an English language podcast, we don't get to have that many Spanish speakers on, unfortunately. But, Adolfo speaks fantastic English for somebody who was signed out of the Dominican Republic. So I asked him about that, and you'll hear it later, but he says, I spent time in the Virgin Islands. I spent time in New York before going back to the Dominican Republic so I could sign, and spending a couple of years there. Guy is incredibly well traveled. And, he's not your average prospect coming out of the Dominican Republic. Unfortunately, injuries have taken their toll, and there's, he was signed as part of the class with Eloy Jimenez and Gleyber Torres and Rafael Devers, guys who are at the major league level. And the injuries are the only reason why he's still really at Double-A. But, fascinating conversation about that aspect and what it's like to, move to the United States so young and get used to not only playing baseball every day in this atmosphere, but also getting used to the culture and what that type of transition is like. So you guys will hear that coming up in a couple minutes.
Adolfo coming up in just a little while, and we'll get started on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Thanks for finding us wherever you did at milb.com/podcast or on Apple Podcasts, Google Play. You can give us a rating and a review and a subscription. You can get in touch with the show as well, podcast@milb.com. And we'll get started. We are nearly a full week into the minor league season, and with that, already we've seen some early big stretches from prospects, whether it's on the mound. Some guys have already gotten a couple of starts in, or guys who have started off hot at the plate. Early standout, Sam, for strike one on this week's episode. Who you got?
Yeah, there are 3 I want to touch on real quick. One you've already mentioned, Tyler, talking about that White Sox system, is Luis Robert, back at Class A Advanced Winston-Salem. He was somebody who, ever since he signed out of Cuba, we were told had the potential to be, a 5-tool monster, really, really cool outfield prospect, the likes of which somebody like a Victor Robles or, something like that can just show off multiple tools, and he hasn't done it yet, mostly, again, because of injuries. He only played 32 games for Winston-Salem last year, did not homer in any of those games. You were always told the power would come eventually. Showed it off a little bit in the Arizona Fall League after making up for some lost time. But we all wanted to see what he can do, fully healthy, fully at the capabilities that, he's shown elsewhere. 6 games into the season, we're already seeing that. He's homered 4 times in 6 games, which is just crazy. He's hitting .423 with a .962 slugging percentage because he's also got 2 doubles, so 6 extra base hits in 6 games. 1.44 OPS. Probably will move pretty quickly. I mean, the only reason he's back in Winston-Salem is because they want him to have a little bit of success there. He only hit .244 with a .625 OPS last year in those 32 games. Just let him establish himself, but he's doing that real quick here. Would not be surprised to see him in Birmingham by May, just because, at his age, he is 21, which is not old by any means, but, that's about the level in which we could say, okay, if he gets pushed to Double-A, given what we know about his skill set, he could handle that probably already. They just need to establish this foundation, which he's done incredibly well, which has been really, really neat to see. And, the White Sox, after kind of striking out on the free agent market this year, They add Jimenez. They sign him to an extension. He's going to be a core piece for a long time. Dylan Cease, who did really well for AAA Charlotte last night, they want him to be a core piece for a long time. Robert, they would love to see slot in right there. He's obviously 3 steps away from the majors right now, but could be 2 steps away, could be 1 step away by the end of the season, which would be really, really cool. So good to see him get off to a quick start. Another one is somebody who we actually mentioned last week as part of the opening day megacast, which was a lot of fun for anybody who listened to that. If you haven't, go back to that. We were talking about our Bauman Home Run Award predictions, and I snuck in at the end. It's still not my prediction. I'm trying to get away from doing 2 predictions in one. But Nolan Gorman, Cardinals first rounder from last year, spent some time at Class A Peoria because they saw how good of a slugger he was, how good of a power hitter he was. He ended up hitting 17 home runs in 63 games between Peoria and Johnson City. They sent him back to Peoria this year. First 6 games, 2 home runs, 1 triple, 3 doubles. He's slugging .917. None of this is sustainable by any means. But again, what do we know about Gorman coming into the year is that he could be the game's next big, power slugging prospect. And he doesn't turn 19 until May. To see him start out the year at the Midwest League, a league he's already comfortable at, and continue to slug like he did last year is really, really neat. I don't think he's going to be as quick a riser as Robert could be this year because, again, this is just his first full season. Quick start, not going to take too much away from 1 week. But to see him turn it around or just keep it going, honestly, back with the Chiefs has been really, really cool. And one more I want to throw out. This isn't that much of a surprise, but Casey Mize has gotten 2 starts under his belt and has looked very much like the number 1 overall pick we all expected. He struck out 15 batters in 11 innings with Class A Advanced Lakeland, has yet to walk a batter, which is cool. He's only given up 5 hits in 11 innings, holding FSL batters to a 135 average. He's got a 0.5 whip. I kind of expected him to start the year at Erie. Detroit has been very upfront about this. They've said, listen, we know he's our target. We want him getting out on the right start, on the right track. We're not going to send him to Erie and have his first couple of games to be bangs because of weather, because that's what happens in the Eastern League in April. We want him getting on a normal schedule, just pitching every 5 days. He's done that so far. Once it starts to warm up a little bit up north, and the Seawolves are playing consistently, I would expect him to be up in Erie because obviously he has nothing else to prove here. He's one of those pitchers that just has, absolutely so many weapons to work with, starting with the plus splitter. But his fastball is a plus pitch. His slider is a plus pitch. His control is exceptionally good, as I said, no walk so far in 11 innings. So, again, just ticking all the boxes we thought he would. But to as much as we like being surprised, seeing things confirmed is just as cool after spending such a long offseason talking about this and what Mize could be in his first 2 starts. Now we know, and it's just as exciting as we all expected.
One guy I want to point out who was unranked but has started the season crushing the ball, Brad Zuniga in the San Diego Padres organization. He had 2 homers again last night. He's got 5 already through the first 6 days of the season, and had 5 RBIs last night, and one of the early power guys in the minor leagues, and as if they needed more prospects in that organization to start doing massive things and crushing the ball. Strike 2, Sam. What surprised you so far in the early going this year as far as performances and prospect status goes through the first week?
Yeah, so I've got 2 Zachs, actually, spelled different ways. The first one is Zach Collins, sticking in the White Sox system again at AAA Charlotte. Collins has always been a good power hitter. There, when he was drafted coming out of college at the University of Miami, first-round pick in 2016, everybody believed in the bat more than they believed in his ability to be a defensive catcher. But he's kind of been an interesting case through his first, 3 minor league seasons, going on his 4th now. He's a 3 true outcome guy. He's going to strike out a lot. He's going to take a lot of walks. He struck out 158 times in 122 games last year with Birmingham, but then walked 101 times as well. So he had a 234 average, but a 382 OBP. But right now, through the first 4 games with Charlotte, the power is really, really coming through. He's got 4 homers in those 4 games, really keeping that up. All of those games have been at home. Charlotte is a little bit of a bandbox there in the International League, especially from that circuit's standpoint. If you were to hold it up against the PCL, might be, not hold up quite as well. But As far as hitters parks in the IL go, he has played all of his games in Charlotte, and that might help him. But 2 homers on the first day. He's homered in each of his last 2 games as of when we're recording this on Wednesday. So that's kind of interesting. How can he keep that up against AAA pitching? Is he going to start to take more walks? Again, he struck out 4 times in 14 at-bats. So is he just going to completely lean into this 3 true outcome? I'm going to be spending more time looking at him than I would have maybe otherwise coming into this week. And the other one that's kind of surprising to me, might not be to followers of the Miami Marlins system, but Zach Gallen had an absolute dominant start for AAA New Orleans. Struck out 11, did not allow a hit or a walk over 7 innings in his first start of the year. This is somebody who did not strike out anybody, or did not strike out double digits in any of his starts last year with New Orleans. Does that in the first start against Round Rock, who we said, Round Rock might have one of the most impressive lineups, most impressive all-around rosters in minor league baseball. So for him to do that that quickly on April 5th was really, really neat to see. He had a 3.65 ERA in 133 and a third innings with New Orleans last year, hitting the ground running now. Is he going to be somebody who's, going to show wicked stuff and stand out in that way? No, not necessarily. The cutter is his only above average pitch, but he's got 4 average pitches, so he could stick as a starter. We've said this time and time again, if this Marlins rebuild is going to work, they're going to need more than just, your Victor Mesas, your Monte Harrisons, your Isan Diaz's standing out. You're going to need the guys at the lower ends of the prospect spectrum breaking out, and Gallen is doing that already. How can he keep this up? I'll be keeping a close eye on it. But after a full season of AAA last year, to come out the way he did, he's going to put himself on the major league radar very quickly. And especially when it comes to swing and misses and those strikeout numbers. I don't think he's going to keep on a pace of having 11 every 7 innings, but if he gets more whiffs than he did last year, then he's definitely going to work his way into the Miami rotation shortly.
Hey, and somebody else to plug in that system. Congratulations to Braxton Garrett, who returned to the mound, the 7th overall pick in the first round of the 2016 Major League Baseball first-year player draft. He had only made 4 professional appearances in his career coming into this season. Had Tommy John surgery in 2017. He missed all last year. Didn't pitch in 2016, his draft year. 4 appearances 2017, and then had been gone for the last basically 2 full seasons. But he went back out there last night through 4 innings for Class A Advanced Jupiter. We're, again, recording this on Wednesday, so it was Tuesday night. He struck out 6 over those 4 innings, allowed 2 hits and a solo homer, and that was all. So congratulations. Whenever a guy gets back from Tommy John surgery, it's an accomplishment, despite the fact that so often these days we just kind of think of that as a routine thing of, Tommy John surgery, and now you'll have a year away, and then you'll come back better than ever. It is still one heck of an accomplishment to come back from that, so congratulations to Braxton Garrett, and great stuff for the Marlins organization to be able to see him back out there and healthy, and hopefully no more setbacks for a young guy who's still got a whole heck of a lot of promise headed into, still the early 20s of his career. He's 21 right now. He's missed pretty much 2 full seasons, and he's still only 21, and is at the Class A advanced level, so kind of right on track. Strike 3 this week. We have talked so much about the San Diego Padres and their prospect contingent that has already made it to the major leagues. Another guy is back up there already, Luis Urias, who the Padres kind of envision as the double play partner for Fernando Tatis Jr. for years to come. He is back up in San Diego, was called up earlier this week. Sam, your reaction to this? Padres off to a decent start, and Urias initially was headed to AAA El Paso and was there just very briefly to get the season started, but already back up in San Diego where he was last year. Yeah, no, this is very exciting because
last Friday I did a story on the most aggressive assignments coming out of the season and the least aggressive, and I had Urias as least aggressive, and I get it. He's only 21, and if you're going to bring up Tatis, you just signed Ian Kinsler, you just signed Manny Machado. Not a lot of spots in the infield. Somebody's going to have to go. And Urias, you want getting regular at bats, but the guy had nothing else to prove at AAA, and to see him do what he did in AAA, in a brief time, was really neat to just see him force the issue. He went 6 for 18 with a homer, a double, and a stolen base. Had a 956 OPS in those first 4 games with El Paso. Gets called up wicked quick. They slot him in immediately at second base and leadoff. in his first game. Doesn't go quite as well as you would hope, for your major league debut this season. But still, the Padres continually look to be all hands on deck this season. They showed it by bringing up Tatis. They showed it by bringing in Chris Paddock. They'll probably show it by bringing up Logan Allen in short order. So to leave Urias behind is kind of disappointing. This is a guy who has the potential to be a plus to plus overall hitter. The power is never really going to be there. He's only 5'9", but how often have we said that? We said that about Ozzie Albies in the past. Look what he can do now at the major league level, being a short middle infielder. Could Urias be that? I'd love to see him prove it. I'll be paying close attention to what they're going to be doing with him positionally. Tatis isn't moving off shortstop, but Urias has that in his bag. A lot of people thought he would be the opening day shortstop next to Ian Kinsler. That wasn't the case. He's been up for 2 games right now. Like I said, the first game he started at second base, batted leadoff. Second game came off the bench. Kinsler was back batting leadoff and in that second base position. Is it going to be a platoon? I'm not quite sure yet. I think Urias should get as many at bats as possible. That's the only way he's going to grow at the major league level. Last year in the majors didn't quite go as he would have planned. He only hit 185 in 14 games with 12 strikeouts. But everybody knows what he can do. I remember Andy Green at the winter meetings saying he was really getting going before I think a hamstring injury ended his season early. They're very high on him. And if you're going to be an organization that's going to have your best talent on the field at all times, Urias should be part of that 9. And I've expressed excitement about having Machado play next to Tatis, play next to Urias, playing next to Eric Hosmer, what that can do for San Diego long term. Let that start now. Let Urias grow into that position. Kinsler can play multiple positions. He can spell Machado at third. Let him play once or twice a week at second base, spelling Urias. But give Urias a chance to show what he's capable of, because as we've seen in the minor leagues where he's a career 307 hitter, the guy does not struggle at the plate for long as he's getting consistent at-bats.
So that's 3 strikes for this week's episode of the show before the show. Chicago White Sox prospect Micker Adolfo coming up next. He will discuss the beginning of the 2019 season and a whole lot more in another organization that has a pretty bright future and a lot of exciting talent coming up. Adolfo and Sam after a brief pause on the Show Before the Show podcast.
We head to the Southern League this week on the Show Before the Show podcast, the minor league baseball podcast, for number 8 White Sox prospect, Micker Adolfo. Micker, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
Good. So a couple games under your belt now with AA Birmingham. We're barely a week into the season, but how has this first week been? What are your first impressions of your time with the Barons?
It's been pretty good. The team, we got off to a slow start, but we managed to get a couple of victories in that 5-game series up in Biloxi. We kind of started off slow. We haven't gotten ourselves in rhythm, but we're still doing our work, and we'll be fine. We'll pick it up. I know that we will. We don't need to hit the panic button yet. Everything's fine.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you're only 5 games in, so nobody's going to be making any sweeping generalizations or anything like that. But, this is your first taste of AA baseball, the first time, this is the closest you've ever been to the big leagues. Is there anything that stood out about this jump up so far? Because last year you were at Winston-Salem. The year before that, you're at Kannapolis. What are your first impressions just of what AA life is like?
Oh, yeah. The pitchers are definitely much smarter, in the sense that they're going to attack you where they feel that you can't, get your best swing on a ball. It's up to you to make that adjustment and show them that you can hit the ball where it's being pitched. And the strike zone is really good. I took some pitches and a couple of my bats that I was like, whoa, that's a ball. So that was pretty cool. still, like I said, still getting into the rhythm of things, and I'm starting to feel better.
Yeah, and when you mention going up against pitchers like this for the first time and them having a plan, what have you noticed about the way they attack you specifically?
So they've been attacking me hard inside, early in the count, and then they're going away from me later in the count. And they'll mix in a few high pitches here and there, to like start off the at bat, get me chase one, and then from there, if I chase that high pitch, they'll pound me with one inside and then go soft away.
So are there any adjustments you've made to your game or your approach to kind of adjust back to that kind of feedback you're getting from pitchers?
To be honest, yesterday I kind of studied more like the information that we get during the game, and I saw the kind of pitcher that we had, and he liked to throw a lot of fastballs, but his fastballs, they're like kind of rising, they had kind of like good backspin. So the only thing you can do with that is be on time, and you gotta swing at the ball that's probably gonna start at your knees, and it's gonna end up somewhere around your belly button or something. Anything up from like your like, middle of the stomach up, that's a ball. It's just gonna keep going up, and that kind of helped me yesterday. You just stay on top of the ball, not try to do too much. I felt like I was trying to do too much the first couple games, or swinging too hard and stuff, and I was getting in a bad place. I don't need to swing too hard. I just need to be on time and just whip that bad boy through the strike zone.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting you at a good time here on the show. For anybody listening at home who hasn't been following the first couple games here, you opened up 0 in the first 4 games. But yesterday, we're talking here today on Tuesday. On Monday in Biloxi, you went 3 for 5 with a double with 3 RBIs. So, obviously a good way to break a slump that way. What was this spring training like for you? Because you're coming off a 2018 season that had a lot of positives until you underwent Tommy John surgery, I think last July. What was this offseason like in getting prepared for this and being able to go this early in the season?
So to be honest, I in the back of my mind, I was thinking that I always wanted to be ready for spring, but I was having a hard time with my range of motion, and that was kind of limiting me from doing a lot of things, like swinging a bat. And so I guess my arm just started to feel better, and started progressing really quick. And around January, really took off. And from there, everything just went up. I was able to start swinging. I was throwing for a little bit, but then I started getting some tingling in my pinky, and it kind of shut me down from that for a little bit until that calms down. But yeah, just heading into spring training, I felt good. I prepared for the off season really good. I worked out hard. My legs, my shoulders. I built strong set of shoulders. Because I'm going to need my shoulder to be strong when I really start playing the outfield again, And that's pretty much it. I feel good now.
And just to revisit something you said in there about being on a throwing program and putting that off to the side, are you throwing at all now, or is it just – I know you've only played DH so far, so during games it's strictly batting, but have they completely shut you down from throwing again, or are you building back that up at any point?
Yeah, I'm starting to build back up my throwing program this week. So hopefully I should be somewhere in the outfield, maybe mid-June, early July.
Oh, well, that's exciting, because one of your biggest tools, according to most scouting reports, is a plus arm. So adding that to a very exciting package will be fun to see again. Take us through what it was like when you found out you needed Tommy John surgery, because you mostly played DH last year as well, and they were trying to keep you away from throwing and trying to keep you away from harming your elbow after you had some earlier issues with it, and then it just pops like that. What was your thought process going into rehab, going into the surgery, and what do you think that process did for you long term?
I feel like during this process, if you're not mentally strong, I mean, it's gonna just eat you up. They had days where your arm feels great, and then days where your arm sucks. But I felt like going through this process made me much stronger and gave me more determination to get to the big leagues and continue grinding and hustling. Because nothing is handed to you. When I found out I was gonna have Tommy John, I mean, I was like, man, like I was really sad at the time. I just couldn't believe it because I was just preparing myself that off season so hard, to build off that season that I had in Kannapolis, and I just felt like all of a sudden it was just gonna get taken away from me. But luckily, it never bothered me to swing. So I got the green light to DH and continue progressing as a hitter, and and that really helped me last year. Continue getting at bats and seeing advanced pitching, and take it into this year.
And you're somebody who has gone through a lot of injuries in the past. The Tommy John is just the latest one. You've had hamate issues. You had a broken pinky I think at one point, and some leg and ankle issues. Do you have any kind of mantra to get you through these? Because some of these are kind of freak things. They're not like it's a big injury history, but it's not like something that's going to be worrisome for the future. What do you do to get through injuries and get back on the field time and time again?
I feel like it's all about how you want it. I've wanted this since I was about 6 years old, playing in the big leagues, and not just being a regular player. I want to be a game-changing player, and I have the tools to do that. And every time I go through a little hiccup in my way, a little bump, at first it kind of hurts and bothers me, but you can never question God, and and you just gotta keep praying and ask Him to give you strength to guide you through those tough moments. I mean, you can't control that. If it was up to me, I would never want to get hurt on a baseball field, because that takes away time from you developing, But like I said, you get these little speed bumps in your way, and I feel like it has molded me into the person that I am, because I definitely never take anything for granted, especially me being so much time off the field in the past couple of seasons. So just being able to play is a blessing.
And you mentioned wanting this since you were 6 years old. I want to go not quite that far back, but a little far back. You signed with the White Sox in July 2013. We're coming up on 6 years since that time now. You're at Double-A. You've been added to the 40-man roster, pretty close to the major leagues throughout all these injuries. How have you grown, do you think, the biggest on the baseball field since you signed out of the Dominican Republic?
So definitely the biggest part for me is growing, on the mental side, because this game is probably 80% mental and then 20% physical. I'd say you got to be really strong, because in this game you succeed 30% of the time and fail the other 70% of the times, and you're awesome, So when I was younger, I didn't really understand that. I always wanted the results to be, then and there, like in that very moment. So if I was working on something new, I wanted to see the result that same day. And I was young, I didn't understand the process of things, and so I was just like, I was very demanding with myself. But as I started gaining experience as the seasons went on, and having the coaches talk to me all the time, and also my dad who played minor league baseball until the AAA level, that really helped me started like seeing things differently. I wouldn't put myself in so much pressure, to go out and have fun and trust my abilities, you know, and just always try to stay positive.
How long do you feel like that process took? Because that's the whole point of the minor leagues, is learning more about yourself and growing into a close to major league ready player. Obviously you're not fully finished with that yet, but how long do you feel like it took to go from thinking every day I need to improve, I need to do this, I need to do that, to where you are now mentally?
Definitely it was 2016 when I got moved up to Kannapolis the year before I had broken my ankle. So I got to Kannapolis and I played about 2 or 3 weeks with the guys, and then I broke my hamate. I had to get the hamate removed, and then I was in Arizona rehabbing. When I came back, I wasn't myself, you know. I wasn't fighting myself at the plate. I was struggling a lot. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna try to build my season or continue building what I've missed out on these past couple months, and one day I'm gonna take it a day at a time and keep working hard, and what happens happens. And then probably like that last month and a half of the season, I really started going forward. You know, I really started showing the kind of player that I am going to be in the future. I wanted to be. So, and then I took off into Instructs. I went to Instructs and continued working and had good Instructs. I told them I also wanted to go to the Instructs in Dominican, continue getting more reps. I went there and continued getting better, and came right into spring training where I picked off about that last month and a half of that regular season in Kannapolis. And then ever since there, that's just been me, you know.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I want to go even a little bit further back. You mentioned 2016 there. You have more of a process, obviously, coming out of the Dominican Republic, and you mentioned wanting to go back to the DR for Instructs, but what is that process like for you? You went from the DR pretty quickly to the AZL, and we're there, you know, so there's the culture shock, there's a whole new language. Obviously, we're speaking in English, your English is fantastic. What has that process been like? What have the White Sox worked with you to get, into this country and comfortable in this country and comfortable speaking the language? I mean, how many things have you worked on culturally in the last 6 years?
Not much, because I was born in Dominican, but I left when I was a baby, and I grew up in New York in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. I went back to the Dominican when I was 14, probably 2 weeks before I turned 15, and I went to the baseball program over there in hopes to get inside July 2nd. The biggest thing for me was being away from my family. You know, I was just 17. I had never been away from my mom and my dad that long, and it had days where it really get to me. You know, I was just there all alone, and I'm just like, wow, you know, like I don't have my mom and dad here with me, and it kind of sucks right now. But I thank the White Sox for always having my back and always like helping me get through that. You know, that the way they helped me get through that is definitely the kind of built me into the kind of person I am today, you know, because it's not easy when you're 16 or 17 years old being away from your home for the first time for 7-8 months, you know. It can be really tough on you.
No, I bet. Yeah, what was the biggest thing you missed about home?
Just everything, you know, my mom, my dad, my sister, everyone, you know, the food. I miss my food all the time, you know. It's just.
What's your go-to meal then back home? What were you craving the most?
We eat a lot of rice, chicken, and beans every day, you know. And so then when I got here, then I'd see stuff like chicken and like a bell pepper and stuff like that. I never saw stuff like that. I see like mushrooms, and I had to eat that, you know, because that's what they had out for us. And I was just like, man, I've never eaten mushrooms before with like chicken and stuff, you know. And then And then salads, like I had never really eaten salads and stuff like that. And then I called my mom and be like I don't know how to cook anything, And then she's like, you got to make the best of it, son. You're a professional baseball player now, and I know it kind of sucks that mom's not there for you to be able to, but you got to start turning into a young man at a very young age, And it's just like, yeah, and then so she was right.
I'm sure that's something she reminds you about all the time, if she's anything like my mother. But what became your go-to dish then when you were all of a sudden trying to make it here and trying to find your own way, and especially in the kitchen?
My go-to dish at that time was like the macaroni and the scalloped potatoes, and then they'd have that with like steak tips and stuff like that. That was really good. I remember that. That was one of my favorite meals.
Yeah, no, there you go. That's a pretty good introduction. So coming back to 2019, again, you're opening this year with Double A. Birmingham Double A is when we start to talk about it being real for guys and knowing that how close to the majors they really are. But when you signed in 2013, you signed in a class with Eloy Jimenez and Rafael Devers and Gleyber Torres, guys who are now, in the major leagues. How close do you feel right now? I mean, what, especially in an organization that you saw what Eloy, did climb into the majors this spring. How close to Chicago do you really feel?
Oh, I feel like I'm right there. I just gotta stay healthy, and go out in the field and be the best player I can be every day. Like I said, in this game, you're gonna fail about 70% of the times. And then the other 30% of the times, if you're doing good, you're awesome. You're a superstar or whatever. But definitely just controlling my emotions and just being me. That's it.
Well, let's end on that one then, because I wanted to bring this up. You haven't really had a chance to show White Sox fans yet what you can do fully healthy when everything's clicking, when everything's coming together. So when you say, I just need to be me, what do you think the fully healthy, fully productive Micker Adolfo is going to look like?
He's going to be, I feel like I'm going to be a middle of the order guy that's going to rack up assists every year in the outfield. And on the base paths, he's going to be aggressive and he's going to try to score on everything unless the coach stops him. That's the kind of guy I feel like I'm going to be,
So is there anybody you've modeled your career after, or anybody you looked up to growing up and thinking that's the guy I want to be when I make the major leagues?
Like Vladimir Guerrero.
That's a pretty good one, I would think. Yeah. If we could all be like Vlad, we would all be Hall of Famers. So that's a good one. All right, Micker, thank you so much for joining us. Congrats again on the comeback and getting back on the field as quickly as you did. And good luck the rest of the way down there in Birmingham.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, so for this segment, we bring in MILB.com's Benjamin Hill for his usual weekly segment. This feels much more formal than what we normally do with you, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing well, and there's no need for formality. It's a casual atmosphere.
It is a casual atmosphere. As we sit here in this massive conference room once again, not as big. Well, no, it's a little bit even bigger than last week.
This is bigger than last week. This is a palatial conference room. You could have, 24 high-ranking board members hammering out billion-dollar deals in this room, but it's just us.
It's just us.
Keeping it modest.
Just talking about minor league baseball.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer that to what also happens in big rooms like this. But anyway, so you've got promo preview up. This is your first one of the season, I think, right? Or second one. Did you do one for opening week?
Yeah, opening week, we went over some of it last week, just, kind of 10 promos to look out for.
Right.
Kind of more
for
of a season overview.
Yeah.
Promo preview, just, talking historically, I started writing for this site in 2005, writing game recaps, and it was during the 2006 season when I was working during the day, I was just asked to write a promo column, just because it was one of our editors writing it, and he was overwhelmed with other stuff. And I was like, sure, let's do that. And it was fun to write, and I got to make jokes, and I got to learn about teams and learn about the promotions they were doing. And I'm only going into this to say is like that is what kicked off my whole career as it stands now, is writing that promo column was the sort of first step. Oh, the first step was getting hired to write game recaps in 2005, but the second step and what really led me on my current career path was writing a promo column all the way back in 2005, or 2006. So it's a little surreal in the year 2019 to be talking about like, hey, let's talk about the promo column you're writing. If you had told me in 2006 I'd be on a podcast, first of all, like, what's that? But in 2019, talking about my promo columns, I'd be like, wait, what? Like, what? But here we are.
And the cool thing about this is that it still feels fresh every time you do it. I mean, there's still new ideas that people come up with. Obviously, minor league baseball being so big, there are going to be so many ideas coming at you week to week. But it feels like it's different every time, which I appreciate as a reader, and I'm sure you appreciate as a writer. But we're going to be sticking mostly to South Carolina in this segment this week, starting with promo preview, in which you talk about Myrtle Beach and how they really get involved in the community, and they're trying to pay tribute to Good Samaritans from Hurricane Florence, which obviously affected that region. What can you tell us about their initiative there?
Yeah, Myrtle Beach Pelicans on this past Saturday, April 6th, gave away a Community Heroes card set. And the reason I focused on this in my latest column, and my column these days are kind of part preview, part review of things that happen. It's all over the place chronologically, but it's all about minor league promos. But I focused on this one, dealing with what the Pelicans did on Saturday, because as you know, I'm always looking for fresh ideas. And it was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. I want to say it was the Lowell Spinners who did it first, but I can't recall exactly. But the idea of a military hero trading card set where teams would solicit submissions from the local community saying, are you someone who served or someone in your family served? Get in touch with us and we'll put together a set of local people who served in the military. That idea then caught on, and dozens of teams have done it through the years. So now in Myrtle Beach, we had the Pelicans who do a military card set. That's something they've done in the past. And this year they took that formula and took it in a new direction. Hurricane Florence hit over the offseason. Myrtle Beach proper wasn't devastated by the hurricane itself, but the surrounding area, the flooding that followed was hit very hard. So whenever you're dealing with a traumatic situation like that, as Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. Obviously a lot of good Samaritans stepped up amid all the devastation. And the Myrtle Beach Pelicans took this military tribute concept and said, let's just do a Community Heroes card set, and it honors, in this case, 24 individuals who stepped up in the wake of Hurricane Florence to help the community. And I just think that was a really cool idea. And, of course, on Saturday they had all or most of those heroes at the ballpark, recognized them in a pregame ceremony, and to the first 1,000 fans in attendance, they gave away one of these card sets. So it's just normal people who did good in the wake of a tragedy. So you have people like a guy named Jarrett Hucks who owned a hotel, a 70-room hotel, and he opened his doors and let people stay there for free. You have a third grader named Abby Woods who volunteered all over the community and filled sandbags and delivered food and stuff like that. So up and down the line, 24 different people, all walks of life, who stepped up in a time of need and honored in a minor league baseball team's card set. Obviously, no market wants to go, or no community, no minor league market wants to go through, a devastating event. But let's face it, they happen, and they've been happening more and more, meteorologically speaking. So I think it is an idea that we will see emulated, and I think it's a great way to just to pay tribute to people in the community who might not specifically serve in the military or have a specific connection to a public service-minded job, but who really step up in times of need. And I just thought it was a cool idea, so that's what they did on Saturday. And then the next day, they gave away a bobblehead of a local weatherman, meteorologist Ed Piotrowski, and that was supposed to be on the same night as the Community Heroes card set, but he was down at the National Tropical Weather Conference accepting an award for his outstanding television coverage before, during, and after the hurricanes. So Saturday, the Pelicans gave away the card set. Sunday, the Ed Piotrowski bobblehead. So it was a weekend of kind of looking back at Hurricane Florence. Obviously not something to celebrate, but something to commemorate and to celebrate the people who did well in this time of need.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things about this story, too, is this quote that you have where the Pelicans say that they received over 100 submissions for this, and dwindling that down to 24. I don't know if they if they mentioned this to you or if they have any plans to do this again. But the fact that they could do this almost 4 times over with the amount of people who helped out in that region speaks to the people around Myrtle Beach and the willingness of other people to acknowledge what people did for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking to General Manager Ryan Moore about this promotion, he said it was tough to narrow down. He said, when applicable, they would put multiple people on the same card to get in as many people as possible. But that's definitely an unenviable task. I deal with it in a less dramatic way, just trying to pick my favorite ballparks or whatever. It is hard when you're dealing with a lot of quality material to narrow it down, but that's what you got to do.
All right. So also, as part of promo preview, you kind of pick a promo a day to look forward to. What else is standing out to you this week?
Well, we had a couple absurd ones. I need to get details on this, but I tweeted about it yesterday and no one seemed to care. But I like when teams, especially in the early season, kind of cold weather, generally low attended games, when they just throw ridiculous promos out there. Last night, the Akron Rubber Ducks staged Flicks and Chili Night, and that's like Netflix and chill, but it's Netflix and...
It's a spoonerism for that, I guess.
But it's Netflix and chili. And they devoted the evening to a celebration of our fans' favorite Netflix scenes and use of beans, which doesn't even make sense.
I guess it's their favorite use of beans.
In a Netflix scene, I guess?
No, or just chili is their favorite use of beans. It's just it's a weird syntax.
It is.
I don't love
it. I don't even know if the team knew what they were going for, but I shouted out because it's so weird. And then as we speak, tonight, and this will have happened when you hear this tomorrow.
So this segment will be obsolete.
Yeah. New Hampshire Fisher Cats have obsolete night Wednesday, April 10th. Yesterday, if you're listening to this on the day the podcast came out, celebrating outdated things such as fax machines, video stores, and flip phones. So that's just like another back-to-back absurd promos in the Eastern League on April 9th and April 10th.
One thing you threw in there that I just want to point out real quick, you say check the team's MySpace page for more information. That seems like a Ben quip, but is that a thing?
That was a quip. Yeah.
Okay, all right. They don't actually set up a MySpace. Anyways,
they didn't. I don't think you can set up a MySpace page. One other thing I want to mention is obviously in baseball, on April 15th, we'll see the it's been a tradition for years now, Jackie Robinson Day, everyone wearing 42. This is something I've written about in the past, and we've talked about it on various fronts. But the Daytona Tortugas play at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. That ballpark is named in honor of Jackie Robinson because he spent 1946 spring training there, which were his first games as a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers organization. When he spent 1946 spring training in Daytona, he wore number 9. So for the last couple seasons, the Tortugas, they've gotten permission to do this. Instead of wearing 42 as a Jackie Robinson tribute, the team all wears number 9 in reference to the number he wore in spring training. So they're doing that, celebrating him all weekend, having various giveaway items related to Jackie Robinson, a shirt and I believe a statue replica. There's a Jackie Robinson statue outside the ballpark. They're giving away a statue replica. And then later in the week, one of the April 13th, over the weekend, one of the most notable alternate identities of April for sure, Louisville Bats, who were the Mashers in previous years, representing Louisville's whiskey bourbon industry. This year they're paying tribute to alcohol once again, but also paying tribute to horse racing, being Louisville and the home of Kentucky Derby, Churchill Downs. They're playing as the Derby City Mint Juleps on April 13th. And if you haven't seen those uniforms, check them out. They are pretty interesting. And then we'll go back to the absurd real quick. April 14th, the Hickory Crawdads are celebrating the 77th birthday, I guess. This is not something that's born, per se, but duct tape is 77 years old, and the Hickory Crawdads are celebrating happy birthday to duct tape.
Duct tape. That's always important that you have to make it with the T and not a K.
Yeah, I went down a little rabbit hole on the Wikipedia page when I just wanted to see if there's any information about and it got way too complicated, and there was all this back and forth about the etymology of the word and how it was duck in certain situations, so we can't get into that.
Yeah, no, that's another promo that Akron should look into down the line, I think. And one other story I want to shout out real quick that you have coming up for the site. It should be up by the time this podcast is up on Thursday. You did a story on Charleston adding to its community relations staff, but adding, and not just, this isn't your normal front office edition. This is somebody who's actually been on this podcast, former Cubs outfield prospect Chris Singleton, who has been heavily involved in the Charleston area for a long time. He's tragically lost his mother in the church shooting down there a couple of years ago. That's why we had him on the podcast. If you get a chance, go back and listen to that episode. Chris is, his message about overcoming that and, going towards love and away from hate is it's on a number of different levels. But anyways, he'll be joining the Charleston River Dogs front office. What can you tell us about his new role and how the River Dogs are taking him on?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Singleton, a Charleston area guy, and as you mentioned, lost his mother in the church shooting of 2015. He was drafted by the Chicago Cubs. He played for Charleston Southern, in college, and then was drafted by the Cubs and spent the last 2 seasons in the Cubs organization. As you said, you talked to him when he was in the organization. Then he was released in March, and he's only 22 years old, and went, almost immediately, and just essentially starting now, to a community outreach role with the Charleston River Dogs. So this guy's journey continues. He's already a motivational speaker, spreading the hate conquering or love conquering hate message, a message of forgiveness. I mean, he's already showed a kind of a remarkable response to what he's been through. 22 years old, and now just released from the Cubs organization. I imagine that has to be tough to deal with in and of itself. And now he's with last level he played at was Class A in the Midwest League in South Bend, and now he's working for a Class A team in the South Atlantic League. But it's going to give him an opportunity to continue to spread the message that he's been so devoted to over the last several years. So he will work with the River Dogs, as an official member of their staff, to reach out to the community, to spread the message. And it's obviously a community he's already very intimately familiar with, having grown up in the region, as well as what he went through in 2015, and all the speaking he's done in relation to that. So I was supposed to talk to Chris earlier this morning, but he got a little hung up, so don't have all the details on the story yet, because I will be talking to him very shortly, I hope. And but that story should be up, as you mentioned, tomorrow. Pretty interesting hire for the River Dogs. Chris Singleton, Director of Community Outreach, fresh off his playing career, still in baseball and on a totally new chapter. I mean, this guy's 22 years old. He lost his mother in the church shooting. His father died not too long ago. He is married with a young kid. He has 2 younger siblings who he kind of went into a guardian caregiver role. He got released by the Cubs. Now he has a new job here. He's a motivational speaker, and it's overwhelming to think about. But this guy's taken on a lot, and I'm looking forward to talk to him. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the ultimate tease is, read the story and see what Chris has to say about this new role, and see what he's willing to do with it. So we'll wrap it up with this. You're going to be announcing your road trip schedule soon. Not yet. When you do, it'll lead your segment. Either next week or in the weeks to come. It'll definitely. I know last week I said it'd be this week. It'll definitely be next week. It'll definitely be next week. Okay. So the schedule, it's all good to go. Right. So what can you tease us about for next week? What can we look forward to about that? Well, you can look forward to roughly a trip a month. Well, a trip a month starting in early May. It looks like May 1st is when I will embark on the first trip. Taking April off, so to speak, from the road is not something I do every year, but something I've done through my years of travel. This will be my 10th season of travel, going back to 2010. And I think April is kind of a good month to lay low a little bit, because teams are just starting, getting their own feet, feet underneath them, getting a roll with the season. The weather's not that great, but in May, June, July, August, and I will be hitting all the new ballparks and a few bonus things on top of that. And as I've mentioned in the past, not as many places as in the past, trying to stay a little longer at each place, and still working on the specifics of how the material will change, but it definitely will. And as a result of me, I don't want to say being embedded in a place, but staying a little longer and not just doing my typical, here's 8 teams and here's 8 days and I'm just going to go wild and get overwhelmed. And I kind of like that manic energy, but it's, I'm an older man now and I'm going to do things a little differently. And you've been everywhere, well, not everywhere, obviously the new parks, but right. Amarillo, Las Vegas, that type of stuff. But, time to freshen up, and, I think that's going to be good for readers to get a more immersive experience. It's going to be good for you to keep your head on straight the entire time. Yeah, I think so. And a lot of fun stuff to come. Yeah, absolutely. And you hit it on the head. Like, after I hit the hashtag been everywhere milestone, been to every active park, I felt like, hey, slow down a little bit. You don't always have to have that manic drive to keep getting places, or if you haven't been in a place and I haven't been here in 5 years or 6 years, look, I've done what I could. I'm only one man. It's worked out pretty well so far. It can always be better. Hopefully this year it will be better, and it will all be starting soon. I'll be on the road in a couple weeks and be announcing it very soon. And I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll talk to you next week about that and reveal everywhere you're going to be going in 2019. Thanks for joining us this week, Ben. We'll talk to you next week. And before we go, let me be the one to say it this time. You're sitting on my right.
That's right, and you're on my left, and now it's time for me to be the one that has left, right?
Yeah.
Final segment of this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. For the first time this season, we get to I guess we could have done this last week, but we didn't. We get to preview what we're watching on MILB.TV this week. You can get your subscription right now to watch all the best in minor league baseball in the 2019 season. Sam, what do you got your eye on this weekend?
Well, I'm going to recommend people watch a game that I will actually be there for. On Saturday, I'm going to be traveling as a fan, not to cover, although, who knows what will happen. I'll bring my recorder with me. But on Saturday, I'll be traveling to the Scranton region to see Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders take on the Buffalo Bisons. Hopefully by then, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will have ended his rehab. I don't have any inside info on that. The Blue Jays keep saying they'll update folks as they see fit, but he seems to be getting regular bats with Dunedin again. Even if Vlad isn't with the Bisons yet, Tyler picked them last week, I think, as his favorite lineup or most interesting lineup going into the year. Lineup. Right. So Bo Bichette will be there. And I do have to have a mea culpa on this. We corrected you, Tyler, for saying like Anthony Alford was getting called up Toronto, so he might not be in that lineup. Then he was in the lineup for the Bisons on opening day. Very confusing set of transactions for Toronto for me. They trade away Kevin Pillar, to the Giants, and then say like, oh, this is to get Alford at bats, and then they call up Alford, and then they send him back to Buffalo. Anyways, that's still a really, really interesting lineup between those guys and Kevin Biggio and whatever. And also David Polino is scheduled to go for the Bisons in that game. Anybody who's been following his career going back to the Astros, tons of potential there, just hasn't been able to stay on the field either through suspension or through injuries. So I'll be interested to see what he can do up close. But if you don't have the opportunity to go, watch it on MILB TV. It's in HD now, a lot of these feeds, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, it's crystal clear. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about Eric Swanson got called up by the Mariners, and they saw some highlights of his, and they're like, this is weird. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, this doesn't look like Seattle. I'm like, I know, because that was when he was pitching for Tacoma. The feeds are crystal clear. It's really neat to see. It's a lot of fun to watch if you get the chance. So any of these feeds, they're all marked on MILB.TV, available in HD, but you'll see the minor leagues like you haven't seen them before.
And that segues very well into the game that I am picking this weekend. Fresno is on the road at Las Vegas, and I'm picking it as much for the MILB.TV quality as for the field, the players on the field quality. But maybe the most maligned MILB TV feed that we've had in recent seasons has been Las Vegas. At Cashman Field, there was only so much that you could really do from a streaming standpoint. But brand new ballpark. Josh Jackson and I were actually talking about this the other day. For these new ballparks, we kind of wish that there were more just like ballpark shots and city shots and just like a camera walking around, because we all want to experience what the ballparks are like. But Amarillo, Vegas, there's some really cool new parks. Fayetteville in the minor leagues that you can check out on MILB TV this year as well. And coming up this weekend, there are some really interesting prospects on those teams. Obviously, Carter Kieboom is up with Fresno at the AAA level in the Nationals organization, which is now Fresno is now the Nationals affiliate at the AAA level. And on the Vegas side, we talked about how interesting that roster is. Sean Murphy is kind of the guy who I've got an eye on when watching Vegas, the catching prospect in the Oakland A's organization who is up there. So you can check that out and get a look at maybe the new crown jewel in the minor leagues from everything that we have heard about Las Vegas ballpark, which will play host to the Las Vegas Aviators and the Fresno Grizzlies coming up this weekend. And maybe you get a glimpse of Finn the Bat Dog. It's just going to be my mission now to try to work a Finn mention into every episode, because I think that's two straight now.
That's only what they deserve after getting treated so horribly by the umpire the other night.
Yeah, exactly. What was that all about?
I don't know.
Finn? Talk about an ump show.
Yeah.
Umpire picked up a bat, threw it away from Finn. Come on, man. One of the cutest members of the minor leagues.
Finn lived up to it. Is it him or her?
I believe Finn is a boy.
Okay. Finn lived up to his training, though, and chased the bat in the on-deck circle.
Did. Just bolted over to the on-deck circle and still picked the bat up.
And promptly returned it exactly where it needed to be.
What a dog. What a
pro.
What a pro. Just a true professional, Finn. So that's it's all coming up this weekend at MILB.TV. And we got more teams than ever, more games than ever available in HD pretty much across the minor leagues. And you can get your subscription right now at MILB.TV. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. For Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Maun. We'll talk to you next week.